All right, Matt, it's time for us to begin tonight. Thank you for coming.
Delighted to be here.
And thank you all for watching us. I've got to do some housekeeping, Matt, just right off the beginning. I am completely flying blind tonight.
You are.
I don't have my extra phone that I use to monitor the live stream, to see comments and questions and see who's out there.
Yeah.
I just wanted to scoot out of the house kind of quick. And so I told Isaac, I said, be ready. We're going to leave. And the plan was to go to Taco Bell. That's all I was thinking about.
Understandable.
So I just went off and forgot the monitor phone. It's on top of the refrigerator. So if you're watching us, there will be no roll call tonight. I know y'all love it.
We could make it up.
Yeah.
Hi, Larry and Linda. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, let's just make up roll call later. No, I guess we won't have a roll call. I can't see who's watching, and I can't get text messages, and I can't get questions. I have nothing.
Yeah, but we are glad you're watching anyway.
But we are glad.
Our anonymous audience.
There might be 5 people out there, and we'd never know. Let's act like there's 500 people watching.
Awesome.
Isn't that great? Thank you all for watching us tonight. All across the fruited plain.
Yeah, I don't think the plane has any flutes.
That's right. So tonight we are going to stick with the Song of Solomon or the Song of Songs, depending on what your Bible translation says.
Yeah.
We're going to do kind of a big view. I asked Matt if he was okay with kind of wrapping up the Song of Songs. This will be our 3rd week on it. We're going to kind of do a big view, high up, and then we're going to dip down and catch a few of the verses and a few of the concepts. We've explored a lot already, Matt.
We have.
This is a song celebrating matrimonial love.
Yes.
And intimacy.
Yes.
This is poetry. It maybe was written by Solomon or for Solomon or in the Solomonic.
It belongs to him somehow.
It belongs to him somehow. It is chronicling a love story, but it's not necessarily in chronological order.
That's right, and we're going to talk about some of the reasons why we know it's not.
That's right. We'll look at that. There's a lot of metaphor in this book that describes the beauty of the body.
Yes.
And the beauty of sexual intimacy.
Some of that we're going to talk about. Some of that we're not going to talk about.
Yeah. We've kind of hit on a lot of these things, but just to kind of recap, it is a unique book, like Esther was earlier, that we were looking at. Because God's not mentioned, the law's not mentioned.
And yet, I think in some ways we see God's handiwork even more clearly here than we did in Esther.
How so? We didn't explore that. How so?
I would say that simply because when we are talking about marriage, that is something that is created by God.
That's right.
You know, the human body was created by God. He created them male and female.
Right.
And what we see in Song of Solomon is just the logical extension of that creation.
That's right. This is just to kind of go back to the overview just real quick, maybe one more point. This is an interplay between the woman, who is the speaker the majority of the time in the book. We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Here she is breaking stereotypical norms. She is describing the sexual intimacy. She is looking forward to the sexual intimacy. She's really driving this entire narrative, or this poetic narrative, if we could say it that way.
She's maybe a lot earthier than we would write her if we were writing Song of Solomon.
Sure. We'll look at that in just a minute. Also, obviously, there is Solomon. He is the male figure, and he does speak some and echoes a lot of the same things that she says. And then there is this other group. The English Standard labels them as others.
Yeah.
They kind of function like the Greek chorus
Yep.
would in a Greek play. They're giving us some commentary. There's a little interaction between the chorus and the female. I don't think the chorus ever interacts with the man like they do with the female.
Right.
And so they're kind of off stage if we're looking at this as a production. They're stage right. And the light will come up on them sometimes and dim on them.
Yeah.
Depending on what's going on.
At the end of the book, you have brothers. You have a narrator throughout sometimes.
Right.
And of course, none of these stage directions are in in the original Hebrew text. So this is just what translators think is going on.
That's right. That's right. Have you ever seen this as a production?
I've never seen anyone do it. I've always read it that way.
The first time that I taught Song of Solomon, I actually laid it out as a production, what it would look like if we were seeing this on a stage.
Yeah.
And it really unfolds nicely.
Yeah.
I think somebody could take this. Hey, anybody out there got any spare time? Put this out there as a Broadway production. It'd be great.
Song of Solomon, the musical.
The musical. That's right. Okay, let's start out. I'm going to let you start out with that big overview. In fact, you've actually, you know what? Let's do it since it's in chapter 1.
Yeah.
If we were to do this as a production, would the leading lady be Hollywood beautiful?
That's a really interesting question, at least based on the things that she says about herself. Because, normally when you have these big descriptions in Song of Solomon, people they'll go on and on about what they're feeling.
Right.
But it's like the man who talks about what the woman looks like, or it's the woman who talks about what the man looks like. And so what we see in the first part of Song of Songs 1, 5, and 6 is kind of unusual because this is the woman describing herself.
Right.
And what she says, beginning with verse 5, is, "Daughters of Jerusalem, I am dark like the tents of Kedar, yet lovely like the curtains of Solomon. Do not stare at me because I am dark, for the sun has gazed on me. My mother's sons were angry with me. They made me take care of the vineyards." So this sounds really weird to our ears, that she is making all of these apologies about being dark-skinned.
Right.
But 3,000 years ago, that was a sign of class status.
Right.
Because if you were very fair-skinned, then that meant
high class.
Yeah, that meant that you could spend all of your time indoors.
Right.
Because you had other people out in the field working for you.
Right.
And even as late as the Civil War, you still see this discussed, that having very fair skin is beautiful. But of course, since the Industrial Revolution and we spend all this time indoors anyway, it's kind of flip-flopped, where having a tan means that you have lots of leisure time to be outside.
Right.
But anyway, so when she says, "Do not stare at me because I am dark," this is almost a defensive statement on her part, that she recognizes that she's not conforming to traditional societal standards of beauty.
Right.
But she says, "I don't care, I'm lovely anyway."
She does. And she is not... Somebody asked this question, and I don't know if we covered it last week or if it was after the show. Sometimes all this stuff runs together with me.
It does.
Somebody asked, how could she be so in love with Solomon? Oh, yeah, this was Sunday night. It was Sunday night.
Okay.
And how could she be so in love with Solomon knowing he has all these other women? And I asked him, I said, if she was standing right here, she might say to you, how can you expect to just keep that man all to yourself?
Yeah.
It's based on what we're thinking, the way we're brought up, our culture and our society.
If you are getting married to the king, then you are not going to be the one and only.
That's right. So here she is apologizing for herself because of her looks, which define her as a lower social status.
Yes, exactly.
Now, the one wife that we always have carved out when we're reading through the narrative of Solomon is he married the daughter of Pharaoh.
Right.
Now, I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One, they weren't supposed to go back to Egypt.
Right.
And so we have that. That should ping in our minds, wow, I can't believe he went back to Egypt to get a wife. But there's another reason. I actually picked this up one time, this idea, in the National Geographic History magazine.
Okay.
That's a great magazine. They had, there was an article in there about the pharaohs not marrying their daughters off.
Yeah.
because they were so powerful, they never married their daughters off to other kingdoms. They always got the daughters from the other kingdoms. So it could be, on one hand, it's saying he went back to Egypt and get a wife. Wow, he shouldn't have done that. On the other hand, it shows us just how powerful Solomon is.
Yeah. And
that he got one of the daughters of Pharaoh. Now, in one sentence. In contrast, here she is, the one we get the book about, who is of lowly status.
yes.
And the one that we should ping our minds all the time, like something's wrong here, is the high status woman from Egypt.
Although, interestingly, I think Pharaoh's daughter has a psalm. I think Psalm 55 is about Solomon marrying Pharaoh's daughter.
Oh, is it really?
I think so. It's thereabouts. It's
Well, you're the Psalms expert, man. I will not doubt you as I look it up to confirm what you said.
Not Psalm 55.
You're usually off by one.
I think I missed by more than that. It's definitely there, though. Maybe it's 65. Anyway, it is the psalm celebrating the king's marriage. It's about Solomon marrying Pharaoh. Maybe 45. 45.
45.
I was off by a digit.
All right, where's it at?
Actually,
Can you find it real quick?
it's the daughter of Tyre in verse 12.
Oh, okay. Well, that's just another bad city.
Yeah, so another foreign woman who is
Right.
marrying the king.
So, to bring this all the way back around
Yeah.
to Song of Solomon, here she is somewhat apologizing for her looks.
Yes.
But she does have some self-confidence that
Yeah.
she is lovely. I wonder if that self-confidence that she is lovely is enforced or maybe even informed by or found its origins in the way Solomon talks about her.
I think that is certainly the case because this is Song of Songs 4.
Yeah, chapter 4.
We have the first of these big poetic descriptions of what she looks like.
Mhm.
There are two in the book that are really prominent. We're not going to go through all of that, but in verse 7, Solomon's comment about his beloved is, "You are absolutely beautiful, my darling. There is no imperfection in you."
Okay. Now, if I had my phone here to monitor what was going on, I would turn to the audience and say, ladies, help me understand this. What does your husband complimenting you, what does it mean to you? What does it do for you? I don't know if Shelley's watching or not. I'm going to talk about
Are
her.
you hoping she is, or
Yeah, I'm hoping that she's not. Is she? She is. They gave me the thumbs up back there. Okay, forget it. Moving on. No, the thing is, I don't understand, ladies. I just cannot understand talking down about yourself, especially when your man is standing there saying, "Baby, you're beautiful. Baby, I love you. I will never stop loving you. I think you're everything to me. You're
beautiful. You're my one and only.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say something like your hair's like a flock of goats, but
Well, it might be pretty awesome if you did.
it might be bad. Yeah, I mean, so I think as we were kind of discussing this just a few minutes ago, guys, you need to say it. Ladies, you need to believe it.
And recognize what's going on here when you have a woman who is making a conscious choice to reject what society says about her beauty.
Right.
And instead she chooses to listen to her husband.
Right.
Because, I mean, it just has to be really hard to be a woman sometimes with all of the expectations that are laid on you about what you should look like and how you should behave and all of these other things. And yet when you get right down to it, what matters is not the impossible expectations of society.
Right.
What matters is what your husband sees when he looks at you.
Right. That's right. And that's what we're seeing here. And I think that's what we need to see in our own relationships as well.
That when he says, there is no imperfection in you.
Right.
I can just imagine the daughters of Jerusalem wanting to stand up and say, well, actually,
she's got some calluses on her hands from cutting all those vines.
yeah,
all
look
the
at that
time.
skin. Ew.
Yeah. Oh, and I bet her feet are kind of rough too. And I mean, society can find all kinds of imperfections about us. But if there's a relationship, a loving relationship in our marriage, there should be that complimenting to one another about how beautiful you are. And in fact, that's, to me, that's kind of something that's really neat here. You know, I think it was in the book Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters.
Okay.
Have you read that?
I have not.
Good book. If you got a daughter, go get this book. Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. There's 2 copies in my office. Grab one.
Okay.
There's a chapter in there about complimenting your daughters.
Yeah.
And it says something to the effect, the summary would be, compliment them for more than their looks. Compliment them for their mind. Compliment them for their heart. Compliment them for the actions that they perform that are good and moral. As you read the Song of Solomon, pretty much only compliment on looks.
Yeah, but that's because that's the aspect of human existence that Song of Songs is focused on.
That's right. So, ladies, men, say it. Ladies, believe it. And I think that settles.
And don't get poisoned by any outside voices.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So, Matt, we've also talked about so let's go to chapter 2. We've also talked about how this is not supposed to be a chronological rendering of this love story between Solomon and the Shulamite.
Right.
In fact, we should see it more as a collection of songs. If you get this chronology in your mind, it's kind of hard to get it out. But if you kind of look at a few places, you can begin to see.
Right.
This is a collection.
Our expectation is that this would be chronological.
Mm-hmm.
But you simply can't make that line up with the book.
Right.
Because if you're trying to make it fit a chronology, then at various points you have to stop and say, okay, well, why are we back at the beginning again? Why are we not married again?
Right, right. So the marriage takes place. So this is a building up to the marriage and a celebration of marital love. So we get the description of the marriage in chapter 2. So show us where you want to go.
A couple things that I would point to that lead us to this conclusion. We have this repeated refrain throughout the book that shows up in verse 7 of chapter 2. In the CSB, it says, do not stir up or awaken love until the appropriate time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the poetic way of saying this is about marriage. This is not for before.
Right.
But then...
Well, hang on. Let's not get too fast over that.
Okay.
What we should take from that is that, going back to last week's discussion about how we teach on the topic of sexual intimacy, that it is something to look forward to. It is something to be held in honor. It is something that is not purely negative in a sinful way.
Yes.
There is a positive quality to it, but we need to keep it for its appropriate time. And that's what is being said here about stir up or awaken love until it pleases.
Song of Songs is a celebration of marital intimacy. It is not a celebration of sin.
That's right. It's not a celebration of intimacy in and of itself. It's marital intimacy.
Yes. This is intimacy at the right time.
That's right. All right. I just didn't want to go over that too fast.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember if we had talked about that before or not. But anyway, so you have this refrain throughout the book.
Mm-hmm.
But then in verse 10, my love calls to me. Arise, my darling, come away, my beautiful one, for now the winter is past, the rain has ended and gone away.
That's right.
And so the implication is, well, we're supposed to wait until the appropriate time. Guess what? Now is the appropriate time.
And the appropriate time is described in verse 12 by spring things that are growing. So the time of refraining from intimacy because we're not married vanishes away. It's a time of winter.
Yes.
But it's a time of spring when we get to verse 12. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of singing has come. The voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land.
It's Easter. It's eggs and bunnies.
That's right. No, that's right. It is. The fig tree ripens its fig. The vines are in blossom. They give forth fragrance. Arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away. And so there's a celebration of this. In fact, if you just look, it's almost balanced. 11. No, it's not. It's not balanced. There's a lot more descriptions about what this love is and its awakening than there is about the darkness and gloom of not having it.
Right. And then the outcome of this is in verses 15 through 17, where you see all of this imagery about vineyards and lilies. And in Song of Solomon, that is definitely euphemistic.
Right.
This is about the woman. And when she says in verse 16, my love is mine and I am his, that is signaling to all of us that the marriage is being consummated.
Correct.
That they are coming together.
Right. So we've had this time apart, but now we are together, and it's in great celebration.
Yes. I mean, it's like a love ballad from the 70s here. You know, winter is over, spring has come. And I mean, can't you almost hear it?
Almost.
Well, you don't write enough songs, I guess.
No, I don't. I've only put together that one.
Well, it's a good one.
No, there you go. I'm a one-hit wonder.
Yep, batting 1,000. Anyway.
Okay.
So the point is that we have. It looks like things have reached their conclusion at the end of chapter 2.
Right.
But then
we start all over again.
Yes, in chapter 3 and verse 1. In my bed at night, I sought the one I love. I sought him, but did not find him. So he was there, but now he's gone.
Right.
And then we're back in verse 5 to not stirring up or awakening love until the appropriate time.
Yes, and then in verse 6 of chapter 3, Solomon's going to arrive for a wedding.
Yes.
That we've already had.
Yes.
So here's a repeating of it. And so this time, in this cycle, we're back in the first cycle in chapter 2, she is adoring him. Now we have him adoring her.
Yes.
And we've hit on chapter 4 already.
Yeah.
But it's just what he is doing here is he is taking aspects of nature and the creation, because for a Jewish mindset, that is the perfection. Because God created everything and he said it was good. That's right. So if I want to describe the beauty of my woman, I'm going to use the goodest things I know.
Yeah.
And that's the creation.
And when you are talking about that which is very natural and intimate, I mean, that's exactly the sort of metaphors that you would choose anyway.
That's right. Now, I want to pick up on one thing that is said in chapter 4. And that's in verse 9. You have captivated my heart, my sister, my bride. You have captivated my heart with one glance of your eyes, with one jewel of your necklace. So this was love at first sight. But he uses a phrase here that's kind of odd.
Yeah.
What phrase do you find odd in that verse?
My sister, my bride.
Sister, yeah.
I mean, we're not in Genesis here. We shouldn't be marrying sisters.
No, or Alabama.
No. Just couldn't resist, could you?
I couldn't resist.
So
we just lost half our viewership from Alabama.
Yes. So suddenly the available bandwidth is skyrocketed. Anyway.
Yeah, he uses this phrase, my sister, because he wants to, in fact, actually you see it again over in chapter 5. I just happened to put my finger down, and there it is in verse 2.
4:9, 5:1.
Right. You're going to see this again, and it's just a way of describing intimacy. Now, in this culture, if you're engaged and you have yet to consummate the marriage, you can't be showing any kind of PDA.
Right.
You can't be out alone together. But if you are a brother and a sister and share that type of familial intimacy, then you can be out together.
Yeah.
And so it's just a way of showing, it's just a different way of describing the intimacy that they have with each other. Now, that might sound really odd to us and everything, but I'm listening to a book on Theodore Roosevelt and Taft
Yeah.
called The Bully Pulpit. Fantastic book. By far my favorite book on Roosevelt.
Okay.
It does not portray him as the great grand president that a lot of other works do. I forget which one it was, and I was telling you this earlier. It was either Taft or Roosevelt, but was writing a letter to the woman they were engaged with or their wife. I forgot at what level of the relationship it was.
But somebody romantic.
But it's a romantic letter to I think they were engaged but not yet married, and they referred to her as my sister. And so this is late 1880s, 1800s in America, and they're still using the same kind of terminology. So it shouldn't throw us for a loop that he uses that wording.
Yeah, so don't think anything weird is going on.
Right.
This is just a signal of affection.
That's right. Just a signal of affection. Okay. Take us on through. Where are we going to go next?
Notice that in verses 12 through, or 412 all the way through, you need to grab something.
No.
412 all the way through a long way. We are back in the garden again.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing about the identification of the garden is in verse 16. The woman says, "Awaken, north wind, come, south wind, blow on my garden and spread the fragrance of its spices. Let my love come to his garden and eat its choicest fruits."
Right.
So this is still, she is talking about her vineyard.
Right.
And yet she also describes it as her husband's vineyard, her beloved's vineyard. And as I was looking at this, I couldn't help but be reminded of what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 7 about how your body doesn't belong to you, your body belongs to your spouse.
Right. That's right.
And so you don't have, once you are married, you don't have control over that anymore. It is to be devoted to your spouse.
And Paul gets a lot of criticism for what he writes regarding gender roles within the church.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of books down in my library. What did Paul really say about women? That's the title of one of them. What did Paul really say about women?
Well, concordance search.
Yeah. He gets a lot of negative press.
Yes. Which is really funny when he is actually...
It is so funny because, go on with what you said in chapter 7.
He is one of the greatest friends that the fairer sex has ever had.
Yes, he is liberating women because in the culture in which he is writing, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, a man pretty much has total control over everything in regards to his wife, in regards to his children, in regards to his home.
Yes.
But what Paul says to him is, hey, she actually owns your body for her sexual pleasure and intimacy, not you, just her, but her, you.
Right.
And go ahead.
And so I think we see the same idea here in verse 16 of Song of Songs 4, is this is a woman who is surrendering herself.
Right.
And is doing so joyfully.
Right. That's right. And the citation on that, if you want it, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 4, where he gives us the ownership passage.
Right.
Okay. I know we're just kind of moving through the text here. And I do wish I had my phone. I'm so sorry I forgot to bring it. If people are trying to text me or message me,
it's not going to go anywhere.
It's not going to go anywhere.
You'll get back and find like 50 text messages.
Yeah. No joke. I usually have 7 or 8 after every show. And so, I'll answer all your messages afterwards. Thank you again for watching. We're just going through the Song of Solomon. This is our last night that we're going to look at the text.
That's the plan.
We'll move on to something else. So hold with us. Big announcement.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah, you have to watch till the end. Otherwise, you won't know what next week's about.
That's right. Okay, Matt.
Or the sermons.
Or the sermons. Oh, man, I'm looking forward to the sermons.
Sermons will be good.
All right, chapter 5. Anything you want to take note of?
Again, in a lot of ways, this is the most explicit of the chapters of the book.
Mm-hmm.
But something that I especially want to focus on is just what the narrator says at the end of verse 1 of Song of Songs 5. Eat, friends, drink, be intoxicated with caresses.
Yeah.
That this is an inspired invitation to enjoy your union with your spouse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be pleasurable.
Right.
It is supposed to be something that thrills you.
That's right.
And this is something that is good and created by God.
Mm-hmm.
And we should not allow the devil and all of his servants in our society to sully or corrupt this.
That's right. Just looking at all of verse 1 of Song of Solomon, chapter 5. I came to my garden, my sister, my bride. So he is speaking to her using that sister terminology. I gathered my myrrh with my spice. I ate my honeycomb with my honey. I drank my wine with my milk. And then they, so lights dim on them caressing each other.
Yes.
Lights come up on the chorus on the other side of the stage. And so they say, eat, friends, drink, and be drunk with love, according to
and it is, this is a full sensory description here. That
yes.
If you go through it is sight, it is hearing, it is touch, it is smell, it is taste.
Yes, it is. I gathered my myrrh with my spice. And so here's the smell and the touch being stimulated. I ate my honeycomb with my honey. Now, have you ever had honeycomb with honey?
I have not.
It's really good.
I'd imagine.
And so
they seem to like it in the Bible.
They do. And so this is the height of sweetness. And just think for just a moment about a society that does not have refined sugar.
That's about as good as it gets.
This is as good as it gets.
Of course, they were really excited about raisins too.
Yes.
And now if you get like an oatmeal raisin cookie, then you just feel betrayed that it's not.
Yeah, if the kids open up their lunchbox and there's a little box of raisins in, they're like, oh, the ancients loved them.
Yeah.
Because they were so sweet. And then the last one there, I drank my wine with my milk. That doesn't sound too good to kind of put those two things together. Probably the idea is that I'm drinking my wine, I'm drinking my milk. Milk, and the only reason I bring this up, I was reading about milk metaphor for next Sunday night's lesson.
Yes.
So in the scriptures, particularly in the Old Testament, milk is something that is luxurious because it is so thick and it's so creamy, and it's a word that is used to describe abundance.
Yeah.
So when God wants to describe the land of promise, it's a land flowing with
milk and
honey.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you see the same pair at the end of the book of Genesis.
Yes.
Where Judah is blessed. And it's said that his eyes are darker than wine and his teeth are whiter than milk.
Yes.
So this is also a symbol of blessing.
Right. That's right. And so he describes, and so kind of in a unique way here that's different than the rest of the book. The rest of the book, we have all of these nature metaphors. Yeah. Vineyards, palm trees, goats. But here we're going to go to things that really attack the senses. Yes. And so that verse 1 of chapter 5 kind of stands out. Yes. All right, where are we going next?
We are skipping down to the end of chapter 5.
Okay.
And once again, the lights are back up. The lovers are not together.
Right.
And the woman is trying to find her beloved. And so the chorus asks for a description. What does the guy look like? Mm-hmm. And then she launches into one of those standard Song of Songs descriptions of somebody. Right. Which, again, is incredibly glorious. This is airbrushed Hollywood perfection 3,000 years ago.
Right.
So she's going through and talking about him. And then in verse 16, declares what he is to her. This is my lover and this is my friend.
Right. What do you make of that friend being thrown in there?
I think it is a reminder that all of this is, despite the great affection with which it describes body parts, this is fundamentally not about body parts.
Right.
This is about a relationship with somebody that you love. And that is what transfigures everything else. That this is why she's into the guy.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just her lover. This is somebody who is her friend. This is somebody who is her companion.
And I think that's a good point to make, that one of the things that I forget where I came across this not too long ago, but the speaker was talking about him and his wife were empty nesters. And he said, I actually now get to enjoy time with my friend. He said, but the problem is there's a lot of relationships and a lot of marriages that go very sour after the kids leave, because the kids were the glue that held the marriage together.
They have to stay together for the children's sake.
Right. They don't know how to be friends. And eventually you're going to be there alone together. And you're going to have to be friends. There has to be something that binds you two together, not just the intimate nature of your relationship. There has to be something there that binds the heart together.
Our society loves to talk about sex.
Yeah.
Our society is really bad about inspiring friendship between spouses, because the American ideal is for everybody to be so busy that unless everybody has 3 separate jobs and they're spending their whole lives going in 50 different directions, and unless the only time they see each other is a quick peck on the cheek on the way out the door in the morning, then unless you're doing that, then you're lazy, you're underperforming, you're slacking. And for us, maybe the message here is that we need to slow down and we need to be friends.
Right. That's right. Okay. Chapter 6. We got them together again in the Garden of Love.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. So we're kind of just repeating and working through the cycle.
Yes. We have Garden of Love. We have more descriptions.
Right. A lot more description. Solomon begins to describe her again in verse 4 of chapter 6. A lot of the same terminology that we have seen before. Pomegranates are mentioned. I think pomegranates are mentioned almost in every one of the descriptions.
Pomegranate juice.
Right.
And again, I think it's sweetness there. This is one of the sweetest things that was available to you.
If you want to, for those who are watching, if you want to get a good book that will help you decipher not just metaphors in the Song of Solomon, but actually throughout the Bible, the Encyclopedia of Biblical Imagery is a fantastic resource to have. I really highly recommend that book.
A lot of this stuff just doesn't make sense to us the way that it would have made sense to them, because we don't live in Palestine 3,000 years ago. Right.
Leland Ryken is the editor of that book, and he had a lot to do with the ESV.
Yes.
And he in his own right is a good writer. Do what now?
I said that's where I know the name is, from his work with the ESV.
That's right. Okay. Anything else in chapter 6?
Nope. In the garden, pretty woman.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's it. We're in the garden. You're beautiful.
Yep.
Chapter 7, look at verse 1. How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O noble daughter.
Yep. Well, we're going to start at the feet and work our way all the way up.
That's exactly right. And so again, we have another description about beauty, about how lovely the woman is. And again, I think we're just reminded that this is something that we need to say often. We actually maybe need to give a little thought to.
Yep.
A little bit every now and then. The bride gives her love at the end of chapter 7, so we kind of repeated that cycle. We repeated that cycle really quick.
Yes.
And then we get to chapter 8, and we need to slow down here in chapter 8. Unless I missed anything in 7.
No, I think 7 is just the same stuff, the same 5-sense descriptions of marital intimacy and how much they're enjoying themselves.
All right, what do we need to take note of in chapter 8?
Well, once again, we have don't stir up or awaken love until the appropriate time.
Right.
So that warning is repeated again.
That's verse 4.
Yep.
Yep.
And then in verse 6, we have what we had identified earlier as kind of a theme of the book.
That's right. You want to start reading with verse 6?
Set me as a seal on your heart, as a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death. Jealousy is as unrelenting as Sheol. Love's flames are fiery flames, an almighty flame. A huge torrent cannot extinguish love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If a man were to give all his wealth for love, it would be utterly scorned.
Yeah. How powerful is love?
As it is presented here, it is an extremely, or an extraordinarily powerful force.
And that's, I think that really kind of gets to what this book of poetry is supposed to remind us of. Love for one's spouse should be powerful. It is powerful. And we can allow ourselves, in the context of the marriage, to be swept up.
Yes.
Go full board for the love that you have
Yes.
for your spouse.
An idea, I think, similar to that of intoxication. Drunkenness is obviously a sin as per many verses in the Bible. So Christians are not supposed to be intoxicated, but you are supposed to be intoxicated with your spouse. That this is a place where you are to be abandoned.
Right. That's right. Yeah, just give yourself completely and fully to your spouse, to the love that you have for your spouse.
Yeah, and interestingly, in the light of all that we know about Solomon's 999 other women, there's even a discussion of jealousy here.
Right.
And in some ways, that makes more sense for us than it does in this context, because the love that we are talking about here and the relationship that we are talking about here is exclusive. It is something that only your spouse has a right to, and something that you should guard jealously for each other.
That's right. One of the things that I would point out in Proverbs chapter 30, and I included this in last week's promo for the show, there are three things. This is Proverbs 30, verse 18. There are three things that are too wonderful for me, four I do not understand. So he says, basically, by saying it that way, the emphasis is on the last one.
Yes.
Yeah, there's three, I don't get them. But let me tell you about that fourth one. I really don't get it. The way of an eagle in the sky. Didn't understand how an eagle
I memorized this one.
Or the way of the serpent on the rock. How can snakes slither on a rock? The way of a ship on the high seas.
Yep.
How does it stay upright and not get blown over? The way of a man with a virgin, or some translations say a maid. And I think basically what it's talking about there in that last one is the whole book of Song of Solomon.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is love.
Yes, that what we are describing here is a mystery. In fact, at the end of Ephesians 5, Paul says this mystery is great.
Yeah. Yeah, this mystery of love is great. This mystery of marriage is great. But what Song of Solomon says is, you know what? I can explain something to you.
Yeah.
And fully, completely, wholeheartedly give yourself to your spouse and be swept up in the love that you have for each other.
Because God wants us to understand that that's how it's supposed to be.
That's right. That's how it's supposed to be. So, Matt, let's go ahead and transition to giving everybody a preview.
All right.
This year, the Jackson Heights congregation, for those of you who are not members here who are watching, our theme for the year is Be the Light. And so right now, we're on kind of an every other month doing a series that highlights this idea of Be the Light. So, Matt, tell everybody what we're going to be doing for the month of March.
What we're going to be talking about is being a light in our marriages.
That's right.
And even though we didn't, this plan is much older than doing Song of Solomon, but it really dovetails very nicely with Song of Solomon. Is we're going to talk about being a light in our marriages. And we can be a light in all these other areas of our lives. But if the light of Christ is not shining in our closest relationships,
Right.
then A, that's very hypocritical.
Right.
And B, sooner or later, that is going to spill out and it's going to corrupt everything else.
That's right.
And so when we're talking about being a light in our marriages, this is something that is foundational to Christianity.
That's right. And so we're going to start that this Sunday. Let's see. We drew straws.
We did.
And
Although I might renegotiate one of those with you. I don't know. We'll see.
Don't let it be the first one. I've already got it.
No, the first one's good.
Okay,
The first two are good. We'll decide on the order.
Well, we won't claim them. So let's just say, so this Sunday we're going to talk about respect.
Yes. Next Sunday is going to be submission.
Submission. Sunday after that.
Either communication or intimacy.
That's right. Either communication or intimacy. And then the following Sunday will be the one that wasn't done. The
communication or intimacy.
Or intimacy. That's right. And so that's what we're going to be looking at to learn how to be a light in our marriage to the relationship that we're supposed to be the closest to.
Yes.
Because the problem is, this is the one place where we're supposed to be so intimately close.
Yes.
Use all those words that we found in Song of Songs. My beloved, my sister, my lover, my friend.
Yeah.
My bride,
yeah.
My husband. And yet, oftentimes, and too often, this is the one relationship we do the most damage to, and we take advantage of the most.
And, it reminds me almost of what John says in 1 John, where he asks, how can you love the God whom you have not seen if you cannot love the brother whom you have seen?
Right.
And if we can't love the people we live with, especially the spouse we live with,
right,
then how can we love anybody else?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so that's what we've got going on for the next month here at the Jackson Heights Church of Christ.
That's it.
Sunday night, what's Sunday night sermon?
Sunday night is going to be called Elders in Every Church.
Okay.
Just as part of our Bible reading series of lessons. We're going to be looking at that verse in Acts 14, what that should tell us.
That's right. And so we'll be here live and in person. The house will be open for anyone who wants to come. 10:15 Sunday morning, 5 o'clock Sunday night. As always, we'll still be live streaming. If you can't, if you're out of town or you can't be here, you can join us in person or online.
Also, should we pull the curtain away from what we're going to do next Wednesday?
Yes. So next Wednesday, we've got, for those of you who may not be members of the congregation here, we've set aside our Bible classes during the COVID period. Hopefully we will be back in April. I think that's still the working plan. If nothing changes, we will be back in April. So we got to fill the rest of the month on Wednesday night.
Yep.
So we have done Esther, and we've done the Song of Songs. And so, Matt, what are we going to start next week?
We're going to start the book of Ruth.
That's right. So we're going to do at least 3 weeks in Ruth. And we'll use that last Wednesday night as a flex.
And it's interesting how the reason why we ended up in Song of Solomon was because there was stuff in Esther that reminded us of Song of Solomon.
Right.
And just as we were going through Song of Solomon, I think both of us were thinking, hey, there's stuff in here that reminds us of Ruth.
Yes.
In fact, once you start applying some Song of Solomon euphemisms to Ruth, then some of the weird stuff in Ruth starts making more sense.
Right, right. So we will we'll start that next week. Lord willing, we'll be here. Let's take the 30,000-foot view of Ruth in our first lesson. Get its. I like the book of Ruth. It is really neat,
especially coming after Judges, because Judges
is so bad.
And Ruth is just a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it's a great story. So we will look at Ruth beginning next week. So go ahead and prepare for that. Get you a good overview and reading of that, and we will be together. All right, Matt, I'm going to let you give the last word. And for real, I'm not going to say anything afterwards.
All right.
Except goodbye. So give us one last word on the Song of Solomon.
The last word is that for whatever, well, I think we know what the reason is, that we often shy away from studying this book, but hopefully over the past few weeks we've seen that really this is not one that we should avoid.
Right.
That this is something powerful to say about some of our most intimate earthly relationships. And if we listen to what it's saying, then those relationships are going to go a lot better.
That's right. That's right. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I apologize once again for not being able to interact with our online audience. I really missed that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun with that, so I'm sorry I couldn't do that tonight. But thank you again for joining us. And Lord willing, we will be back here live and in person Sunday morning and online with everybody Wednesday night. Next week, 7 o'clock, we'll start the study on Ruth. God bless you, and thank you for joining us.
Amen.